I'm not a poet, but this beautiful piece that we're going to read aloud by Ross Gay seems to get to that point, I think, very clearly, that we are a fragile, delicate ecosystem. And the way that he discusses Eric Garner as a person who worked hard at the Parks and Recs, horticultural department, planting trees. Trees, of course, give us oxygen. And the tragic irony is not left on us that his breath was taken away from him. Of course, when we say the name Eric Garner, there's way too many other names that come to mind. And we know that that name is a stand-in for all of us. And I think that's important to note, right? Because with this poem, a lot of the words that we're using are, they're metaphors for something larger. This is why I love this piece. This is why I felt compelled to do it. I am an object maker by trade, and it's very rare that I find myself in front of a group of beautiful strangers talking about this work. So I'm very grateful that you're here. So thank you. We've been able to read through this piece 3 times. It sounded amazing. I think we can continue where we left off and breathe deep as well after the recital. Before I begin, I do want to acknowledge some people who really helped make this happen. This piece is the closing, part of the closing for the show upstairs, Elegies, curated by Monique Long. Where is she? She's there in the back. Hi. Can we give a hand? Monique did not want me to shout her out. You can see she's low key right now, but it's very important for me to give her those flowers. So thank you so much, Monique, for making this show happen. So let's talk about expectations. I think sometimes when an artist comes into a space and we do something called an art performance, we don't know where it's going, right? And that's part of the art, is that the artist is doing a performance and we're along for the ride. I want to kind of dispel that and set some expectations here with us as a group. For me, the best thing that we could walk away with here is a sense of hearing our own voice. It's a sense of the power of our own voice in this collective that we have here today. And it's just a reminder. I think we've all been in circumstances where we've had to use that voice, but this is just a reminder of the power of that individual voice in collaboration. So again, I welcome you to read this piece along with me aloud. I think that first I will read it aloud, solo again, and then we will each individually read our lines in the poem before opening it up to all of us here, and then we'll recite it together. Does that sound good? Excellent. This poem is A Small Needful Fact by Ross Gay. Please hold up your signs. And if you can, try not to block your beautiful faces. Also, if it's helpful for you to project more, if you feel comfortable pulling down your mask when you're reading the sign, that will help the audio. Okay? A small needful fact is that Eric Garner worked for some time for the Parks and Rec horticultural department, which means perhaps that with his very large hands, perhaps in all likelihood, he put gently into the earth some plants which most likely, some of them, in all likelihood, continue to grow, continue to do what such plants do, like house and feed small and necessary creatures, like being pleasant to touch and smell, like converting sunlight into food, like making it easier for us to breathe. And if we could all take a deep breath in, let go. Again, deep breath in, release. One more. That felt good. Thank you. Now we'll begin with the poet's reading whenever you're ready.
A small but needful fact
is that Eric Garner worked
for some time for the Parks and Rec
horticultural department, which means
perhaps that with his very large hands,
perhaps, in all likelihood, he put gently into the earth
some plants which most likely,
some of them in all likelihood,
continue to grow. Continue.
to do what such plants do, like house, and feed small and necessary creatures.
Like being pleasant to touch and smell.
Like converting sunlight
into food, like making it easier
For us to breathe.
Again, breathe in. Again. Again. Now, if we can all read together each line of the sign, we will begin. A small needful fact is that Eric Garner worked for some time for the Parks and Rec horticultural department, which means perhaps that with his very large hands, perhaps in all likelihood, he put gently into the earth some plants which most likely, some of them in all likelihood, continue to grow, continue to do what such plants do, like house and feed small and necessary creatures, like being pleasant to touch and smell, like converting sunlight into food, like making it easier for us to breathe. That was beautiful. Thank you. Can we try this one more time? Here we go. A small needful fact is that Eric Garner worked for some time for the Parks and Rec horticultural department, which means perhaps that with his very large hands, perhaps in all likelihood, he put gently into the earth some plants which most likely, some of them in all likelihood, continue to grow, continue to do what such plants do, like house and feed small and necessary creatures, like being pleasant to touch and smell, like converting sunlight into food, like making it easier for us to breathe. Awesome. Thank you so much.